I was thinking the other day, the only real argument to be made against dubbed anime is if you speak Japanese. Let's discuss.
This is animation. Are you ready?
First, I'd like to discuss an argumentative fallacy. It's actually called false equivalency. And the definition is this fallacy is committed when one shared trait between two subjects is assumed to show equivalence, especially in order of magnitude, when equivalence is not necessarily the logical result. The reason I cover this is because if you keep the idea of false equivalency in mind, you will easily see why none of the typical arguments against dubbed anime mean you need to watch subbed anime or that only subbed anime has value. This is called a false equivalency. And I know you're smart, so you will pick up on this as we go through the argument here. Let's also agree before we get started that anyone can enjoy anime, that this amazing, engaging, entertaining art form coming out of Japan is something we want more people watching, that we want more people part of the anime community. Are we agreed? All right, good. Let's move on. I want to cover some of the common reasons that dubbed anime sucks. The reasons cited for why dubbed anime is not good and that you have to watch subbed anime or else you're not a real anime fan. So I've watched a ton of videos and I've compiled the top quote unquote arguments as to why dubbed anime supposedly sucked. And I'm going to address them one by one. So the first one that's commonly cited, this isn't something I'm making up, this is a common argument. Other voice actors cannot pronounce Japanese names and words correctly without an accent. No joke. The argument here is that because Japanese names and words aren't spoken 100% the way Japanese voice actors say them, and that dubbed voice actors have an accent, that you should only watch subbed anime. See what I mean about false equivalency? Those things do not line up. They are not equivalent in magnitude. Because a voice actor is from another country, of course they're going to have an accent and maybe not speak every word correctly 100%. In fact, if you listen to Japanese music that has English vocals, it has an accent. But guess what? I still really enjoy a lot of music coming out of Japan. So this is a pretty bad false equivalency, and this is why I started with this one, because I think it falls apart pretty easily. But just in case you're not convinced, I want to tell you a story. I took a logic course in college, and my professor for the logic course was from Japan. So I think you will find the irony here quite palpable. My name is Blake, but the professor, who was from Japan and had a Japanese accent when he spoke English, happened to call me Black, not Blake. He would call my name in class and he would call me Black. So because he was unable to say my name correctly and had an accent, does this mean I should have asked for a subbed version of the course? Or that the course wasn't valuable in some way? Of course it fucking doesn't. Enough said. Let's move on. A huge anime YouTuber once said, when they were discussing why dubbed anime sucks, they said, there's a thing called subtitles. If you want the original content, watch it subbed. And more recently, when addressing this, they said, you're missing out on all of the cultural significance if you watch it dubbed. A lot of us have heard these type of arguments before, like, you've got to watch the original content, or you've got to watch it as the creator intended. And we've also heard these arguments very close cousin, if you don't like it, don't watch it. First, It gets translated regardless. Whether it's subbed or dubbed, it gets translated anyway. So if I don't understand Japanese words or the cultural significance of said words anyway, it's not going to matter if it's subbed or dubbed. The written translation cannot give me more information than the verbal one if I don't understand the words. Not only that, but this is kind of a dangerous line of thinking. Let me explain what I mean. Steven Spielberg was recently asked why he did not subtitle the Spanish-speaking parts of his West Side Story remake. His response is that it would be very disrespectful to Spanish speakers, effectively saying, watch the original content or watch it as the creators intended. This sounds brave. This sounds great. The problem is this elitist stance, whether it's talking about being against dubs or subs, alienates people. And though it's not the only reason, probably, Spielberg's West Side Story remake tanked. So if your stance is you've got to watch it in the original version, the original content, as the creators created it, with only subtitles as an option, you might as well take that to its conclusion. Just ditch the subtitles, watch it in Japanese only, whether you understand it or not. And you wouldn't read any manga that's been translated either. Just look at the pictures and imagine what the story might be. Similar to Spielberg's stance. I may be being obtuse here, but I am certain that most anime creators would not want folks creating barriers between their art and it being enjoyed by as many human people as possible. Imagine this scenario. Bob here. Just started watching anime. Good old Bob. He's got Demon Slayer under his belt. He's got Cowboy Bebop that he's watched. He bought a plushie and everything. He goes to YouTube to learn more and get more involved with the anime community. He comes across a YouTuber prattling on about how real anime fans only watch subs and that dubs are for losers and weirdos. He feels bad. He wants to be a real anime fan. This makes him sad. Bob commits to being a proper anime fan and only watching subtitled anime, just as the creators intended. He watches a few anime subtitled, but it's not as entertaining to read a line of dialogue, look up at the characters, read a line of dialogue, look up again, read a line of dialogue, look up at the characters, read a book. Now Bob's asleep. Slowly but surely, he stops watching anime. That new Marvel movie did just come out. Trust me, there are a lot of Bobs out there. So for the sake of anime, think before you shame people about dubs. Plus, I don't think Madhouse or Studio Bones or UFO Table would appreciate you turning their customers away. In fact, I'm certain of it. The number one reason cited not to watch dubbed anime is that Japanese voice actors can act and dub voice actors can't. First, yes, they can. Find me an actor who can scream this line better than Pappenbrook in Attack on Titan. Lackluster! I'll kill you where you stand! That aside, let's say that a significant number of Japanese voice actors do a better job voice acting Japanese stories written in Japanese with Japanese grammar and syntax that are supported by animation drawn to match said Japanese voice actors' voice acting. Follow me? Versus, for example, an American dub team translating these stories into English, matching the timing of the scenes, respecting the original and having it make sense to English-speaking human people. So sure, maybe the Japanese voice teams have an advantage over their American counterparts. That said, do these differences really matter if you don't speak the language? Fact is, English dubbed anime has dramatically improved in quality, timing, execution, emotional resonance, etc., etc. And today, right now, you can enjoy a multitude of extremely well-crafted anime that is dubbed. And I hope this continues to grow. And in fact, I do feel like I will be on the right side of history here. Here's an example. Go to cancel your Crunchyroll. One of the top reasons you can pick for canceling is not enough dubbed content, which I would agree. Crunchyroll, not enough dubbed content. Funimation, on the other hand, owns this space and has a lot of dubbed anime. And Funimation, just bought Crunchyroll. Coincidence? Maybe. Maybe not. This may be a false equivalency on my part, but maybe not. Something to consider. The other thing I wanted to say about the voice actor comparisons between countries is I think it's pretty cheap to say that although many Japanese voice actors are great, I mean, I've heard it come through in some of the subtitled ones I've had to watch because that's the only way they were available. However, I think it's pretty lame to say that the dubbed voice actors can't act. In fact, as you watch more dubbed anime, just like any movie stars, you start to get favorites and you start to recognize the voices. And there's one of my new favorites is Aaron Dismuke, who does the main voice in Dr. Stone.
This is exhilarating. Get excited.
And I mentioned Bryce Papenbrook, and another one of my favorites is Molly Searcy, who voiced Akame in Akame Ga Kill. And I'm not just saying that because we happen to be lucky enough to get her to do our transition lines.
You are. Obviously.
It was actually kind of horse before the cart. I was a big fan, and then we got her to do the line. So I feel very lucky to have that. But you become fans of the voice actors just like you do any other star that you experience a lot in entertainment. And although I'm not saying Japanese voice actors aren't great, because when I have to watch it subtitled, though it's not my preferred way, I do appreciate and hear some of the commitment to the acting. There's some very amazing and unique Japanese voice actor laughing, for example, that I really enjoy, and I'll play a couple of them here. But anyway, the point is, I think it's quite rude and even logically incorrect just to paint all the voice actors with the same brush. So hopefully you agree. I'm sure you do. Let's move on. That was very long. Did not need to say that many words. And finally, the latest hot take on dubbed anime. The most recent reason cited as to why dubs are terrible and subs are the only way to go. And this is a bit of an acquiescence, if you ask me, and I think you'll hear what I mean. The new argument, the new hotness, is that the dub for shows like Cowboy Bebop, whose characters and settings are not uniquely Japanese, those dubs are now considered really good, and those are okay to watch. But for the multitude of anime that are uniquely Japanese and have Japanese characters and Japanese settings, you're going to lose out on a lot of cultural intricacies by watching it in a dub. If you watch it in a sub, you will gain those cultural intricacies, or you'll pick up on them somehow. Listen, the response to this argument is pretty simple. If I don't speak Japanese, it needs to be translated for me anyway. The cultural intricacies don't make it into the subtitle anyway. So whatever I'm missing, I'm going to miss it anyway. But when you invite people to join the anime team, You provide this amazing entertainment in human people's native language. You break down barriers to entry. More often than not, they will do something magical. They will seek to learn more about Japan and Japanese culture, as I have, as many of my friends have. And isn't that a good thing? I think that's a better path than telling people they have to watch anime in a way that is more difficult because they're going to miss out on things that they're going to miss out on already. Again, if you listen, there's a lot of false equivalencies here and also a lot of elitism, I think, on the part of the people who say subbed anime is better, you have to watch it subbed or else. And I have big problems with that, which is why I made this video. Let's talk about why dubbed anime is great. If you actually love anime, if you really do, then you should want every anime to be dubbed. You should want as many human people as possible to fall in love with anime like you have. Why? Because when anime gets dubbed, it is one of the top 2 things anime creators can do to continue growing. Number 1, get anime in front of as many human people as possible. One way to do this is by supporting anime content creators. So please subscribe. 2, make anime as accessible as possible to the human population of the world. This does not mean changing the anime storylines for a different audience. No. That would be the worst. I don't want them to change that in any way. We love their stories. What it does mean is removing the roadblock of having to read a book while watching the show or movie. This brings me to my last counterspell to defeat the sub-anime only mountain troll. You're in for a treat if you're a geek like me. All right, I'm gonna have to read this because it's very scientific. The fovea is the highest resolution area of the retina, and I'm talking about our eyeballs here. The fovea is only the central 2 degrees of the visual field. So though we use saccades, which is the technical name for the eye scanning we naturally do, we are constantly scanning around to get the full picture of what we're seeing. We do this naturally. 2 degrees is not very much. If you think about 90 degrees and then you take that down to 2 degrees, that's not a lot. Or a more pedestrian way to think about it is if you hold out your arm and you stick out a thumbs up and you look at the size of your thumb fingernail at that distance, that's about the amount of space that you can focus on in HD, I guess is an easy way to understand it. Or that's about the size of what the fovea can see. Obviously, our field of vision is larger than that. In total, we can see 135 degrees vertically and 180 degrees horizontally. And just a side note there, that's why our TVs and movie screens are in widescreen, because when we look at the world, we are looking at the world in widescreen. But regardless, we only get 2 degrees of that in HD at any given time. What does this have to do with subs versus dubs anime? Well, it's the central reason why many people do not like watching entertainment with subtitles. We already do a lot as we're scanning the screen to see what's happening without having to add in the extra burden of having to read. How much of the beautiful anime art is being missed out on because you're too busy reading the bottom of the screen? And if you think you have special eyes or something and aren't missing anything by reading the subs, I have some land in Florida that I'd love to sell you really cheap. I'll give you a really good deal, I promise. So in conclusion, if you do not speak Japanese Never, ever, 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 ever feel bad about watching and or preferring dubbed anime, no matter what the subs-only mountain trolls tell you. Hopefully we've countered that spell at this point. And to the dub-hating elitist out there, think before you speak. If you really love anime, then you want every human person to love anime as well. Quit telling people they need to watch subbed anime or not at all, or that knowing the names of every type of anime is some sort of prerequisite, or that you need to know all of the Japanese character archetypes in order to be an anime fan. You don't. In fact, we discuss anime quite successfully from a Western lens on our channel, so if you're feeling any type of way after watching this video, please check us out. But anyway, I will get off my soapbox at this point. I feel much better having gotten that out. So thank you for watching, and let's do more to make it easier for folks to enjoy anime. Thank you, and we'll talk to you in the next video. Bye, team.
Not bad, little boy.
Ha 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 ha.